I thought I'd find you up here. Keith, what are you doing?
I'm just sitting here soaking up some Reynes, Dan. It feels good.
Well, speaking of Reynes, that takes us to the Cork Dork list of great green innovations in the wine business. Number 3, solar power. Keith and I are overlooking Klein Cellars in Sonoma, California, and a giant solar farm.
You know, there's 50,000 individual solar panels back behind us, and those solar panels soak up the sun and convert it into the electricity needed to make all the wine here. If it's a good place to grow grapes, it's probably a good place to generate solar energy. So more and more over the next several years, you're going to see wineries converting to solar energy.
Green farming isn't just about saving electricity, but every aspect of a complete environment that really works. That takes us to number 4, biodynamics. I'm with Nate Reynes at Benziger Winery, and Benziger is California's leader in biodynamic farming. Nate, can you break down what biodynamics means?
Well, biodynamics is a philosophy of farming. It was developed by a gentleman, his name is Rudolf Steiner. What we do is we farm in a closed system. Some of the key aspects of biodynamics: composting. We recycle everything back into the property. And by composting, we're feeding the soil, not the vine. But we add these biodynamic preparations to our compost. Things like chamomile, yarrow, stinging nettle, oak bark, dandelion. And this helps the vine's ability to absorb nutrients, fight disease, helps with photosynthesis. So think of the compost not as a fertilizer, but more of a maintenance issue.
In California, I know that there's a commodity more precious than gold, and that's water. So in your system in green farming, how do you work water into the formula?
Well, since we don't chemically manage, all the water runoff we collect.
So you can just use it directly right back in?
Yes, and then all the runoff, or the gray water coming off the crush pad, goes through a filtering system in our wetlands, and we can irrigate with that if we need to. But really, in a perfect world, you want the vine to regulate itself.
So biodynamic farming isn't just making natural style and natural wines to drink today, but it's creating a sustainability where you'll be able to make great wine here for generations to come.
Yes.
We're in Sonoma, California, beneath Sonoma Mountain, in a cave beneath the vineyards of Benziger Family Winery. This is Chris Benziger. And Chris, I notice there's a lot of grasses and kind of ragged looking stuff around the vineyard. Is the landscaper a little lazy, or what's up with it?
Yeah, you think maybe it's on vacation, right? But actually, this time of year, it's pretty hard to tell where the vineyard starts and where it stops. But all that green growth you see out there is all very important. It's what we call cover crop. And they're a very, very important part of how we farm here at Benziger. We farm in these more natural methods, either sustainable, organic, or biodynamic. And they lead to a very special way of farming, so we get great flavors in our wines.
No chemical fertilizers at all in the vineyards?
Yeah, we do. It's a couple of things. One, we try to have as much biodiversity, so we're not just growing a monoculture of grapes. So we have 45 acres of grapevines here. We have about another 40 acres of gardens, orchards, livestock. We have 20 sheep here on the property, and all those work to bring biodiversity into the property. And they act like our pesticides would. And then the other one is what we call a closed system. So what was our waste stream, the very stuff that we threw out, now we compost that and add that back into the vineyards, and that helps with the fertility. At the end of the day, what we want to do is produce wine that has authenticity, what we call is farm individuality. Wine that truly has the fingerprints of the land, of the vintage, of the varietal, and most importantly, the passion of the winemaker.
But tell me a little bit about your practices inside the winery. How about conservation as far as electricity, other aspects?
Well, it's a great thing. Where we're sitting here is in cave is one of the great examples of that. Mother Nature gives us this perfect temperature. This is about 60 degrees, and that's in the middle of winter or in the middle of summer. The only electricity in here is low wattage light bulbs here. That's it. There's no AC in the summertime and no heating in the wintertime, which saves us a bunch of money. And one of the great byproducts of all of this biodynamic farming is wild yeast. And all of our red wines are farmed using wild yeast. A yeast is truly unique to this piece of property and is very important in the fermentation of the wine, obviously. And if our yeast is unique to this piece of property, that's another way we can make that wine authentic.
Chris, when I came in here, in addition to the grapes, I also saw there are all kinds of really cool cows and sheep. How does that all fit into the program? Are you in the meat production business too?
Yeah, you don't expect to see livestock when you're visiting a winery, but they all have a very important purpose. And the sheep in particular, think of those as our little lawnmowers. The sheep are out there right now keeping the grasses down and fertilizing as they go. All this is to try to have the most beneficial methods of farming and have the least impact on the land as you farm. But the best part about it is you get wine that truly has a personality.
How much more would I expect to pay for a green wine?
You know, there is, particularly if you're changing over a vineyard, there certainly are some costs up front. But if you put a vineyard in and you start off with these practices, what we're finding is the costs are almost the exact same with standard farming costs here in Sonoma and Napa. So it's just it's getting everybody on board to do it. It's the changing that's the more expensive part. And they may be a little bit more expensive, but you certainly get a much better bottle of wine.